The unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect truth is seldom met with, even in 100,000 myriad kalpas. Now we can see and hear it. We can remember and accept it. I vow to make the Buddha's truth one with myself. Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. Just want to correct this for a minute. There we go. Okay, so today we celebrated the stupa ceremony in honor and as an expression of gratitude to Reverend Master Jiyu, who was the first abbess of Shasta Abbey. She was my teacher. Reverend Master Jiyu brought Buddhism from Japan to America. Through her hard work, Shasta Abbey was established and is here today. So I thought it would be a nice thing today to talk about a few teachings she passed on to us. Okay, and they're very simple, straightforward teachings, but that doesn't mean that these teachings are not very wise and profound, because I think actually they are. Okay. So if one of us in the monastic community was looking worried, burdened, overwhelmed, Reverend Master Jiyu would often say to that monk, you know, it may never happen. Okay. And Reverend Master Jiyu was both wise and had a good sense of humor. I mean, believe you me, you needed a good sense of humor to do what she was doing, besides being wise. She had the ability to lighten up a situation. So we human beings can worry about a lot of things. I mean, some of us we're worried all the time. Some of it's unexplainable. So in part, worry comes from concern. We care about people, things, and outcomes. Well, that's a good thing, okay? The question is, does worry really help? I'm not saying that it's bad because we have worry, but just does engaging in the worry, following it, does worry really help? Worry doesn't equate with changing an outcome. It's just worry about something. I think offering merit is a much better investment. By and large, worry is an expression of anxiety, distress, a troubled state of mind, or wanting things to be different than they are, okay? Which we don't have control of sometimes. Some of the things we stress about never happen. And if they do, they're not as big of a deal as we thought they might be. Of course, that's a relief. Learning to let go of worry is where we need to focus our practice. Our energies are much better used in ways that aid the object of our worry. Worrying affects the body and mind, and it actually can make you ill. So that's one of the teachings Reverend Master Jiyu gave about worry, that maybe not even going to happen. There was a saying going around in the 70s, I think, if I got my period of time right, and it said, just don't sit there, do something. I mean, maybe this is an old saying, I don't know. But it was really kind of prominent in those days. And the saying even appeared as a bumper sticker. People would have it on their car. I'm sure the intention of this saying was to motivate people to become more engaged with our world, and of course, that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. The problem comes when we act without thought and reflection and wisdom. You know the saying, the helping hand strikes again? Okay? When we barge in without some contemplation of the situation, we can cause more trouble than help. So Reverend Master Jiyu had a bumper sticker made up for her car that said, don't just do something, sit there. Okay. And by sit there, she meant meditate, contemplate. Above all, just don't go all wrapped in worry. The point of formal meditation is that we carry it out into our everyday life. When we get up from formal meditation, we just change postures, okay? Meditation continues. To meditate properly, we need to be meditating in both stillness and activity. And activity is often better done when coming from stillness. It then has a foundation and a centering point. So we need to always consider this, we need to be engaged in our everyday life. In fact, one of the signs that our meditation practice is doing okay, is working, is that we are awake and aware in what we do and in how we interact with others. Because if meditation is turning us into a zombie, it's not proper meditation. Okay. Again, meditation on the cushion is taken out into everyday life. So that's another one of her teachings. When I was a novice monk, Reverend Master Jiyu said something to us in a Dharma talk that really got my attention. Okay, what she said is, if you take the time to meditate, there will be enough time. If you don't take the time to meditate, there will never be enough time. I've always considered this to be a profound teaching. With meditation comes peace and contentment. Even if meditation sometimes comes with disturbance, we still find peace and contentment. Okay? There is the saying that we must always be disturbed by the truth. So disturbance by the truth is not a problem in our meditation, just pointing something out. So in other words, meditation might have a few moments of bliss, but mostly there is a realization that we can improve, do better, learn something more. Okay? So it's not a blissed out situation, at least not I haven't found it to be, but it brings you peace and contentment. When I don't take the time to meditate, my mind runs in circles. I don't know about you, but my mind runs in circles, and I feel off and stressed. Okay? When people tell me that they're having a tough time, I usually ask them if they are keeping up their meditation practice. In Buddhism, there's no magic in keeping up our meditation practice. We just have to get in there and do it unconditionally. That's the ticket. There's no magic, you know. It's us that has to do it for ourselves. Whether we feel enthused, stressed, happy, sad, positive, negative, we just do it. We just do the meditation. You know, there isn't some state we have to be in before we do it to prepare us. We just do it. We find our balance. It works. Also, Reverend Master Jiyu would often say to people who had very busy lives in the world, because she was very compassionate and understanding of people's situations. And sometimes, you know, these people who had busy lives in the world were feeling discouraged about the time and space to do their meditation. So she would say, can you meditate for 10 good minutes? Okay? And it's fine if you just sit on the edge of your bed for those 10 minutes to do it. You don't have to, you know, create a meditation room or have a cushion or So meditation is not about the length of time you meditate. It's more about regularity and consistency of your practice. If you can take more time to meditate, well, of course, don't sell yourself short. Do that. You know, don't make excuses why you can't, but you do what you can. And she really stressed to people that, you know, it had an effect. 10 minutes of meditation. Taking the time to center yourself of the day has a big difference. Okay. So the last teaching of Reverend Master Jesus I'd like to talk about is one she gave the monastic community. She said that in monastic life we are trying to make each other a success. One of the essentials of living in a monastery is to get along with other people. If you can't get along with other people, I don't recommend going to a monastery. because you got people all around you every day, and they're the same people, and they're not the people that you picked, and you can't get away from them. So, so getting along with people is really an important thing to work on, because we all need work on it. Nobody's perfect with getting along with people. If somebody comes to me and says, "Oh yes, I get along with everybody," I don't think so. If they really look at it, I don't think so. Okay. So harmony in Buddhism is the Sangha treasure. And monastic life is not a competition. Okay. In monastic life, you really step away from competition. So for a good portion of my younger years, I was a competitive athlete. I played team sports, so hopefully we were friends and aiding each other on the team, because you usually aren't very successful if you're all not getting along on a team. But your opponent was your enemy, okay? And you were playing for keeps when you played. So I went to a Catholic high school, and before our football games, the football game would be in the afternoon or the evening, but the morning before we would go to Mass, okay? It's okay. I wasn't quite sure why we were there, but the priest who did the sermons for those Masses, because he was the, whatever you call it for athletics, he would sometimes get into this analogy of we being the good people and our enemies being the communists. Our enemies, our opponents being the communists. Well, actually, he had been a prisoner in communist China. He was a missionary. So I kind of see it, but, the analogy, even then for me, just like, no, I don't think so. and the whole idea of kind of going to a Mass so you could win, get the upper end, I don't think God cared, if we won or lose. But what mattered to me was that we didn't get injured, and maybe that we didn't injure somebody, because, football's a really rough game, and you get injured, and sometimes badly. Okay. So, I kind of saw through that and thought, well, that's a bit strange. I don't think they're the communists. So, and I went to high school 6 blocks from Haight-Ashbury from 1964 to 68. So, kind of outside the window was something different than they were showing us in the school. Okay. So I began to question extreme competition, but it took me a while to put down the competitive mindset, because if you've been into that, it really takes a while. So as a novice monk here, I found myself during a temple cleanup time doing competitive dusting. And I'll tell you, I just caught myself right there. Boy, this is not the way to go. This is real. And I could laugh at myself. I'm sure I needed to work through it more, but it helped. Okay, I saw the ridiculousness of it, and I could put it down and laugh. So Reverend Master Jiyu's vision of the monastery was that we live as a monastic community, serving and helping each other. Okay, and, we live like a family, In a monastery, we each have to do our own training. No one can do it for you. There are no saviors in Buddhism, as we know. But we can practice kindness, compassion, and generosity with each other. Okay? We can be patient with each other. So a visiting monk who was here years ago said that if you live in a big family, someone is always upset. Well, I grew up in a big family. Someone was always upset. It's just the way it is, people. And of course, the more people you got, the more odds, okay, someone's going to be upset. We all struggle at times. Reverend Master Jiyu put up with a lot from all of us. Her example was that of kindness, and she also kept the spirit of the law, not the letter. So that's what was important there, not the letter of the law, but the spirit. And that's what we tried to keep here for the harmony of the monastery. And I think we all know, one thing about having a hard time is you can sympathize and be compassionate for other people that are struggling, you know. So we can use these things to our advantage. Is it possible to be kind, compassionate, and generous in a world which seems to be often at odds? People seem to be at odds with each other in our world. Is it possible to do this? Well, in some ways, a monastery, which is not a perfect place by any means, Master Jiyu called it the rock tumbler. But it was the tumbling of the rocks and the grit that was thrown in there that helped polish us all. So us working and holding in there with each other, polishes us all. But is this possible in our world? Okay. Well, sure, businesses need to be competitive, but they don't need to be cutthroat. Sometimes, people who run a business from the view of generosity and compassion are really successful. We don't tend to hear about those people, but I've seen people on the news who really care about their employees and their lives and their families, and it's just not about production. So that happens. And we can have a kind word with and for difficult people. Because there's a lot of difficult people. And we're some of them some of the time. But we can find a kind word and a compassionate thought for those people. So for all our seeming differences, we have more in common than we think. Okay? Most of us want to have a happy, peaceful life. We want security for our family, a good future for our children. Okay? I mean, it would be a high percentage of people if you took a poll on that in the world. Born into this world, the one certainty is that someday we will die. We won't live forever. Everybody's on that track, Nobody any different. Everybody's on that track. The Buddha says in the twin verses in the Dhammapada, hatreds never cease by hatred in this world. By love alone they cease. This is an ancient law. The others know that in this quarrel we perish. Those of them who realize it have their quarrels calmed thereby. See, I read that right. Yeah. So, we got a choice. And I'm very grateful for Reverend Master Jiyu for all the teachings she passed on to all of us. Thank you.